Hi everyone. Welcome to another interesting lecture from my channel. I am pharmacist Dr. Nwazuzu Azudo. First of all, I want to thank you all, my family, friends, subscribers and fans all over the world, for your support to my channel these past 1 year, which has enabled my channel to join the YouTube Partner Program, and get monetized. From the bottom of our hearts, I, my wife Sonsi, and our kids, sincerely thank you all and pray God to continue to bless you all. Thank you so much. Today, we will discuss another topic of public health importance, Lassa Fever. Introduction. Lassa fever used to be endemic in West Africa, where it kills thousands of people each year. With access to the region improving, the opportunity, and the need, to improve our understanding of this disease, are increasing. With the recent resurgence of the disease in 2022, it is now rapidly spreading to many other regions of the world. What is Lassa fever and how did it originate? Lassa fever is a viral hemorrhagic fever, transmitted by rats. It has been known since the 1950s, but the virus was not identified until 1969, when 2 missionary nurses died from it, in the town of Lassa, in Nigeria, my native country. Found predominantly in West Africa, Lassa fever has the potential to cause tens of thousands of deaths. Even after recovery, the virus remains in body fluids, including semen. The years of civil unrest in Sierra Leone, from 1991 to 2002, halted the investigation, through international collaboration, of Lassa fever at a specialist unit in Kenema. Also the increase in international travel, and the possibility of use of the Lassa virus, as a biological weapon, escalated its potential for harm beyond the local level. Access to the country is improving, so renewed efforts to understand it are feasible. Epidemiology of Lassa fever. Lassa fever is caused by a single-stranded RNA virus. It is a disseminated, systemic, primary viral infection. The main feature of its fatal illness is impaired or delayed cellular immunity, leading to fulminant viremia. The prevalence of antibodies to the virus in the population is 8 to 52% in Sierra Leone, 64 to 55% in Guinea, 7 to 21% in Nigeria. Seropositivity has also been found in the Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, and Senegal. Staff from the UK Department for International Development, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and the United Nations Mission in Sierra Leone have also contracted the disease in the course of their investigations on the disease. Sporadic cases of Lassa fever have also occurred in travelers returning to Britain, the Netherlands, and Germany from the above-named African countries. Distribution of Lassa fever in West Africa. Outbreaks of Lassa fever have occurred in the Central African Republic, Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Serological evidence of human infection has also been found in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Mali. Peak incidence was thought to be in the dry season, that is January to March, but data collected in Sierra Leone shows peaks in the overlap with the wet season, between May and November. Many infections of Lassa fever are subclinical, a high index of suspicion, given the difficulties of clinical diagnosis, is needed when travelers from West Africa present with a fever of unknown origin, with symptoms appearing up to 21 days after leaving the endemic area. The virus is excreted in semen for 3 months after infection. We do not know how frequently it may be transmitted through sexual intercourse. Attempts are being made to produce a vaccine using the yellow fever virus as a vehicle. The possibility that Lassa virus could be used as a biological weapon has raised the profile of the need for greater understanding of Lassa fever, and for more effective control and treatment programs. The vector of Lassa fever. The natural hosts for the virus are multi-mammoth rats, Mastomys natalensis, which breed frequently, and are distributed widely throughout West, Central, and East Africa. They are probably the most common rodent in tropical Africa, and are found predominantly in rural areas, and in dwellings more often than in surrounding countryside. 6 members of the genus are infected persistently, and they shed the virus in their excreta. Humans are infected by contact with the rats, or by eating them. They are considered a delicacy and are eaten by up to 90% of people in some areas. Rats found in houses of infected people are seropositive for the virus, 10 times more often than those in control houses. Virus antibodies occur after a febrile illness in twice as many people who eat rats as in those who do not, and deafness, which is an effect of Lassa fever, occurs 4 times more frequently. Morbidity and mortality in Lassa fever infection. Presentation of cases used to be highest during the dry season, that is from January to March, and lowest during the wet season, between May and November. However, recent data from Kenema, from 1999 to 2002, show that admissions were highest during the change from the dry to the wet season. This change might be related partly to population movements during the civil unrest in Sierra Leone, and overcrowding among refugees. Travel usually becomes increasingly difficult as the wet season progresses, and may help to account for the decrease in numbers of cases later in the season. All the cases reported were diagnosed clinically. Until 1998, laboratories' confirmation of diagnosis was available retrospectively, and 60 to 70% of cases were confirmed. But in the year 2000, over half of a series of 22 cases were wrongly diagnosed. Thus, these recent apparent changes in infection patterns must be interpreted with caution. Susceptibility to Lassa fever infection. People of all ages are susceptible to Lassa fever. The disease is mild, or has no observable symptoms, in about 80% of the people infected, but 20% of them have severe multi-system disease. The incubation period is 6 to 21 days. The virus is excreted in urine for 3 to 9 weeks from infection, and in semen for 3 months. The extent of sexual transmission is unknown. Hearing loss in Lassa fever. Sensorineural hearing deficit is a feature of the disease. It was found in 29% of confirmed cases, compared to none in febrile controls, in hospital inpatients. In the general population, 81% of those who experienced sudden deafness had antibodies to Lassa virus, versus 19% of matched controls. There is no apparent relation between the severity of viral illness, initial hearing loss, or subsequent recovery. Hospitalization due to Lassa fever. Lassa fever was responsible for 10 to 16% of all adult medical admissions in 1987, at 2 hospitals studied in Sierra Leone, and for about 30% of adult deaths. The case fatality rate in Kenema varied from 12% to 23% for the period of 1997 to 2002. A recent case series, reported by the United Nations Development Programme, showed low admission rates and high case fatality rates for people aged less than 18 years, who make up 51% of the total population, compared with that of older people. During pregnancy, high rates of maternal death, 29%, fetal and neonatal loss, 87%, have been recorded, with 25% of all maternal deaths in Sierra Leone being due to Lassa fever. Uterine evacuation, however, improves outcomes significantly. An estimate of the case fatality rate in the general population is 1 to 2%, much lower than in hospitalized cases, possibly as a consequence of differences in severity. Using the figures from rural populations, which is available from the United Nations Development Programme, and the epidemiology of the disease, it is estimated that the combined at-risk seronegative population in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Nigeria may be as high as 59 million, with an annual incidence of illness of 3 million, fatalities up to 67,000, and up to 3 million reinfections. Until a complete picture of Lassa fever is known, these are rough estimates. Comparable data are unavailable for the other countries where seropositivity has been recorded. Clinical presentation of Lassa fever. Lassa fever presents with symptoms and signs indistinguishable from those of febrile illnesses such as malaria, and other viral hemorrhagic fevers, such as Ebola. It is difficult to diagnose clinically, but should be suspected in patients with fever greater than 38 degrees centigrade, and who are not responding adequately to antimalarial and antibiotic drugs. For diagnostic purposes, the most useful clinical predictors of Lassa fever are fever, pharyngitis, retrosternal pain, and proteinuria. Fever, sore throat, and vomiting are the most useful predictors for outcome. Complications include mucosal bleeding, 17%, sensorineural hearing deficit, 4%, pleural effusion, 3%, and pericardial effusion, 2%. The outcome is related to the degree of viremia, not the antibody response, and is worse with high levels of aspartate aminotransferase. Using the case series of 140 men and 128 women admitted in Kenema in 2001, the duration of illness can vary considerably. The commonest interval between onset of symptoms and discharge was 17 days. Half of the patients were in hospital for 10 days. The interval between onset and death was 5 days. Half died within 2 days of admission. Delays between onset and admission resulted in most patients not receiving ribavirin within the critical first 6 days. These data add to the uncertainty surrounding diagnosis and lethality. Laboratories' investigation of Lassa fever. At hospital admission, most patients have antibodies to the virus, 53% with IG and 67% with IgM. Together, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assays, ELISAs, for Lassa virus antigen, and for virus IgM are 88% sensitive, and 90% specific for acute infection. Other effects of illness include lymphocytopenia, and a moderate thrombocytopenia, which are maximal for 10 to 11 days after the onset of symptoms. The thrombocytopenia is associated with a serum inhibitor, and with the occurrence of hemorrhage, depression of platelet aggregation, and the severity of Lassa fever. With reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, Lassa fever can be diagnosed in all patients by the 3rd day of illness, but immunofluorescence identifies only 52% of the patients. Clinical management of Lassa fever. All suspected cases should be admitted to isolation facilities. Hospital transmission occurs through inadequate infection control measures, strict isolation of cases, and procedures for handling body fluids and excreta must be maintained. Pharmacological treatment of Lassa fever. Ribavirin and general support are needed. Ribavirin is almost twice as effective when given intravenously as when taken orally, and if given within 6 days of the start of illness, it may reduce deaths by 90%. Dehydration, edema, hypertension, and poor renal function are common. Fluid replacement or the use of blood transfusion requires careful monitoring. Surveillance and disease control of Lassa fever. Surveillance should identify all close contacts of the patients for 3 weeks after the start of illness, and a search initiated for unreported or undiagnosed cases. 2 areas of concern are: 1. The treatment of undiagnosed cases in hospitals, where overcrowding and poor hygiene can spread the disease to other patients, staff, or visitors, and 2. Traditional burial ceremonies for infected corpses, with the possible risk of spread to many people. Vaccine for Lassa fever. Production of a combined, single-dose vaccine against yellow fever and Lassa fever has been proposed. The cost and logistical problems of delivering it would be huge, particularly since fewer than 20% of districts in the countries studied achieve 80% uptake of childhood vaccination. Use for visitors from the United Nations, non-governmental organizations, and business communities might make it financially viable, even though it is the most expensive of the possible control strategies. Community perspectives of Lassa fever. Civil unrest severs supply and trading links, and people's need for basic commodities. Migration disrupts agricultural cycles, reduces farming activities, and encourages looting, killing of livestock, and destruction of property. People are forced into overcrowded camps and public buildings, and spread of communicable diseases is facilitated. Adverse influences of Lassa fever on socio-economic well-being are mediated through the inability of patients to care for themselves and their dependents, the high death rate in hospitals, nosocomial transmission to staff, and the subsequent loss of service, and the occurrence of hearing loss through clinical and subclinical infection. Thank you once again for listening and God bless you. The script of this lecture is also available in the description of this video below. Feel free to check it out. We hope you learned something from this lecture. If you did, kindly like and share this video. Also support this channel by clicking the subscribe button, as well as the bell button beside it, and select all from the options. That way, you will be notified of any other video we publish on this channel. Till we come to you again, with another interesting video, stay safe from Lassa Fever. Bye for now, and see you in the next video.